Hello and welcome to the Lesiak Report. On this edition of the show, this is the March 31st episode of the show. However, it is being recorded on April 3rd. I had Easter. Obviously, as a Catholic, celebrated Easter on Sunday, and the weekend I was a little bit busy with some political activism and whatnot. So, therefore, I'm recording the show April 3rd, but this is the March 31st episode of the show, and it will be in the playlist on libertymovementradio.com, which is in the process of being revamped. Website's being upgraded. A lot of cool stuff are happening with the website, libertymovementradio.com. So I'll be looking forward to that. And folks, what I'd like to talk to you about today is a bunch of things, but I'm gonna be skipping around. So there is not going to be any unifying theme. I'm going to address a bunch of topics, and what I'll start is by perhaps I'll start by doing some third-party coverage, and what I mean by that, I'm going to be doing some third-party reporting on third parties in general, and so that's how I'm going to start out the show, with some third-party news. As you know, I'm a writer for the Independent Political Report, independentpoliticalreport.com, and I'm just going to start with that, and then we can move on to a bunch of other things. Okay, so first thing I want to address here on independentpoliticalreport.com, I'm looking at it right now, is that the immigration issue has been kind of popping up. John McCain, Lindsey Graham, some other senators have been going to the border and investigating what they have to do. As you know, Rand Paul released his own immigration proposal that his detractors call it amnesty, even though he never used the words pathway to citizenship. He never used the words amnesty. But one Constitution Party post by Darrell Castle, their 2008 vice presidential nominee, said that to Rand Paul, that amnesty by any other name is still amnesty. So, Rand Paul's proposal has come under fire. It's kind of a libertarian proposal, though. To essentially make coming to America an easier thing to do. Libertarians. A lot of libertarians tend to support open border, not maybe completely open borders, but loosening security on the border and generally granting amnesty to the 12 million or so illegal immigrants that are currently residing in the United States. So obviously the GOP, the grand old party, has been looking at that, and they want to win the Latino vote. So what they're going to do is try and maybe pander a little bit to the Latino community. But anyhow, Rand Paul is coming to a bit of fire. And when you look at the parties in the U.S., you look at the Democrats, the Republicans, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party. None of them are really for border security, and none of them are really 100% staunchly opposed to the idea of amnesty for illegal immigrants. But the only real national political party that opposes amnesty is the Constitution Party. And so they issued a press release. They issued it March 16th, but it was published on independentpoliticalreport.com today. And here's what they're saying. They say they impose any sort of amnesty for illegal aliens. They want the U.S. troops to protect the states against the invasion from the south, from Mexico. They reiterate that they're the only national political party to stand firmly against the proposals. for a pathway to citizenship, comprehensive immigration reform, i.e. amnesty, that come out of Washington. They criticized Republicans and Democrats for failing to address the control of legal immigration. And here's a quote from Darrell Castle. He says, quote, "It is somewhat analogous to refining laws against breaking and entering, so that those engaging in such conduct would no longer be treated as criminals." And they mentioned current proposals are failing. Castle also said that there is a current pathway to citizenship. Quote, "It is called legal immigration." And they said the Constitution Party supports sensible legal immigration in the U.S. However, this support should not be piggybacked, combined, or confused with legal immigration. We should support and demand legislation for a legal immigration system that complements and provides the best for the U.S. and its citizenry, one that denies the pathway to those who have successfully, many times with full premeditation, ignored our rule of law. Frank Flukiger, Constitution Party chairman, said, quote, "The Constitution Party supports lawful solutions, including initiatives such as the attrition through enforcement programs as a means to address illegal immigration. They support E-Verify. They believe in strict enforcement of the border, common sense, immigration policy, etc." Just going down to the comments, you have Tom Knapp, who is a former Boston Tea Party vice presidential candidate. Boston Tea Party was a small libertarian political party, existed from 2006 to July 2012. They had a candidate on the ballot for president in 2008 in a few states. The candidate was Charles J. and Thomas L. Knapp was his vice presidential running mate. He said, quote, "The headline should be corrected. The Constitution Party stands alone against the Constitution." So again, the whole libertarian notion of open borders is at play here. So, obviously libertarians don't agree with the Constitution Party on this issue, but it's pretty important right now. Okay, another thing, shifting gears, I'm going to be skipping around a lot, so there's going to be no continued flow of anything, really. But anyway, here we have Mark Sanford yesterday, 61% to 39%. He beat a neocon by the name of Curtis Bostic. And now the Republicans are worried that he could lose to Stephen Colbert's sister, Elizabeth Colbert Bush, namely because Mark Sanford, he was an ally of liberty when he served in Congress from 1995, to 2001. A great friend of liberty. One of the few Republicans to vote against bombing Kosovo, I believe. Stood against the interventionism of President Clinton. Was an ally of Ron Paul, served proudly with Ron Paul. He even said that if it weren't for his Fox News contract, he would have endorsed Ron Paul in 2012, but his Fox News contract prevented him from doing so. Mark Sanford, former governor of South Carolina, didn't accept federal stimulus money, but he ruined himself with his extramarital affair with an Argentinian woman. He said that, I was hiking out on the Appalachian Trail. It turned out to be BS. He was actually going down to Argentina to meet his mistress, and unfortunately, he did. They investigated that he did actually misuse some of the state travel funds allotted to the governor's office of South Carolina to head on over to Argentina. And it's kind of sad that he not really a man of character, but a great politician, a great ally of liberty. He was endorsed by Keith Blanford, who I supported, former Libertarian Party candidate in the same district, Ron Paul supporter. Keith Blanford endorsed him the day after. Ray Nash, who was the Republican Liberty Caucus of South Carolina endorsed Governor Sanford. So did the Republican Liberty Caucus. They endorsed Sanford. And David Williams III, who is the candidate I am campaign manager of, also endorsed Mark Sanford. And of course, I'm supporting Governor Sanford for Congress. This article on Political goes on to say that Republicans are worried that he's going to lose to Colbert Bush. This is a Republican district. I believe they said that 18% is the margin of victory of Mitt Romney over Obama in the 2012 presidential election in the first congressional district of South Carolina. So there was a poll done, late March, where they showed Mark Sanford or Elizabeth Colbert Bush, Colbert's sister, running as the Democrat nominee. She was leading Sanford in one poll. I believe it was 47% to 45%, and then 47% to 44%, which is kind of insane because it's a very conservative district, and they're worried that Elizabeth Colbert Bush, she'll be supported by Stephen Colbert. He signed letters for her, fundraising letters. She could piggyback off her name recognition, get support from all over the country to put a relative of the Colbert, Stephen Colbert, the Colbert Report, into office, because Stephen Colbert is also a South Carolina native, and they're afraid that Mark Sanford is going to hand the Republican district over to a Democrat. But he's campaigning hard, and the election is May 7th, and I'm just glad he beat the neocon. It wasn't even close, 61 to 39%. He completely quashed him. It's good to see that Sanford will be the GOP nominee. He'll be a good friend of Justin Amash, Kerry Bentivolio, Thomas Massey, Steve Stockman, Walter Jones, maybe Raul Labrador from Idaho. He seems to be relatively decent. And we have in the Senate we have Rand Paul. To a lesser extent we have Mike Lee, and to an even lesser extent you have Senator Ted Cruz, who Goldman Sachs endorsed candidate, but he seems to be all right. Him, Mike Lee, and Rand Paul are the three senators that I somewhat like. Well, Rand Paul I like a lot, but Mike Lee I also like, and Ted Cruz is number 3. And the rest of the senators, they're, whatever, really. But interestingly enough, that there were 26 Republicans who voted to tax the internet, which is really insane. And then also I read on Russia Today that only one senator opposed the Monsanto Protection Act. That was John Tester of Montana, Democrat. And if that's the case, if Russia Today got their facts straight, that means that Rand Paul voted for the Monsanto Protection Act, which is not a good development at all, because Monsanto has been destroying family farms, small local farms, rural villages, with their or chemical ingredient, the Roundup that they use for the soil. Their GMO seeds have been spreading, and they hold patents over it, and so they're suing farmers. The GMO seeds blow to the neighboring non-Monsanto, non-GMO farms, and they're suing them for copyright infringement. And it's insane what they're doing. The GMOs, genetically modified organisms, have been proven to be bad for health. They've been proven to deteriorate health, and when you see like tomatoes, GMO tomatoes versus organic non-GMO tomatoes, I'll see there's a stark difference between the two, stark differences. So it's sad that while the country was focused on the issue of gay marriage, Monsanto Protection Act got swept through, just like the NDAA got swept through on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day of 2013. When nobody was paying attention. People, New Year's resolutions, Happy New Year. NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, was signed into law by President Obama. Monsanto Protection Act, kind of got unnoticed by so many people, and that's sad. And if Rand Paul did vote for it, I'm disappointed in it. But otherwise, I'm still supporting Rand in 2016 for president. If not Rand, then I'm going to throw my support to the draft Judge Andrew Napolitano movement. It's garnered about 31,000 fans on Facebook. And, what's great about the draft Judge Napolitano movement is that, Judge Knapp is a really phenomenal candidate. He's really articulate on the issues. He's a pro-life libertarian. He knows his issues well. He had Freedom Watch on Fox News until they canceled it. One of his videos was like, what if? And it went through so many things that some people thought that was the reason he was fired from Fox News. He wasn't fired, but his show got canceled. He's still a judicial analyst and Fox News contributor. But, Judge Andrew Napolitano is certainly a great guy, champion of liberty. friend of Rand Paul, big Rand Paul supporter, and hell, he might be better than Rand. And if he does seek the Libertarian Party line, and there's been a rumor that he might, well, that'd be certainly interesting, and he'd have my 200% support. He'd probably be the best Libertarian Party candidate in history, because he is articulate, he's pro-life, he's anti-war, he knows his issues well. He's a hardcore Libertarian, and I'd love to get behind Judge Andrew Napolitano for the general election if Rand Paul does not win or does not run for the Republican Party 2016 nomination, which all signs point to that he will. Back to Sanford. So, yeah, we'll see what plays out here. There's a month left until the election, and we'll just see what happens in that regard. Stuff that's been going on in Pennsylvania with the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania. What's been going on really is that Tom Stevens, who's this objectivist party founder, objectivism is the kind of school of thought, the philosophy of Ayn Rand. He started the Objectivist Party. He ran for president in 2008 and got 720 votes. Ran in 2012, got over 4,000 votes, most of them from Florida. And interestingly is, despite being an Objectivist Party candidate, despite having residency in the state of New York, despite the fact that he publicly endorsed bestiality and he's a crazy whack job, he is the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania chairman. And they're supposed to have a convention on the April 27th. He's backed a guy named Roy Minott. Tom Stevens has. He's not running for re-election as chair. The other guy who's opposing him is Steve Sheets, who's a good hardcore Libertarian, who was running against him against Roy Minott for chair, and he's pointing out the corruption and the blatant dictatorial powers of Tom Stevens as the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania chair, his censorship of the communication channels of the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania. And here he writes that he's lifted away these restrictions and censorships that he's imposed. But then you'll see, he said, Tom Stevens writes, quote, "I am very glad I am leaving office, and I wish everyone well. But when my own friends start to believe the BS that is posted, it's time to find new friends." Well, and obviously doesn't have any friends because he's a crazy whack job, like I said. Just take it from me. I've been contributing to the Independent Political Report since early January of this year. I've been following them for a couple of years now. So this guy certainly is a crazy whack job. Anyhow, that's enough of an internal Libertarian Party conflict. But now I'd like to go to an interview I did with Darrell W. Perry, who is the first announced candidate of the Libertarian Party in the 2016 presidential nomination cycle. And here's the little thing about Darrell W. Perry. He's a writer. It's been published in several publications. One of them include the monthly newspaper, The Sovereign. He's the talk show host on what's it called? Peace, Love, Liberty Radio on Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM, which is based in Keene, New Hampshire. Strongly affiliated with the Free State Project and the Libertarian movement over in New Hampshire. He is the owner and managing editor of Free Press Publications online at fpp.cc. He is a co-founder and co-chairman of the New Hampshire Liberty Party, created in September 2012 to promote secession of New Hampshire from the U.S. From 2010 to July 2012, he was the chairman of the Boston Tea Party, which we mentioned is a small libertarian political party. And he's running for the Libertarian Party nomination in 2016. Website is www.dwp2016.org. And so I did this interview with him. It was published March 31st on Easter. So he gave me some background. He said he's won awards and recognitions for his writing, his editing. He says he's first joined the Libertarian Party in 1999, has been a lifetime member since 2008, and is an advocate and activist for peace and liberty. And then he mentioned his involvement with the Boston Tea Party. He said it was the brainchild of Thomas L. Knapp. We mentioned that Tom Knapp is the founder of the Boston Tea Party, was their vice presidential candidate. He has a blog called Napster, and he is a frequent, he frequently comments on articles on IPR, Independent Political Report.com. Anyhow, he goes on to say that Tom Knapp believed the Libertarian Party was selling out its ideals, that he thought that the Boston Tea Party would be a refuge for people if the Libertarian Party stopped being radically libertarian. He wanted to let the quote-unquote reformers, the Reform Caucus and the Libertarian Party know they were being opposed, and also to protest the party for nominating Bob Barr and Wayne Allen Root, two neocons, for the presidency and vice presidency in 2008. Now Bob Barr announced a few days ago on March 28th that he's running as a Republican in Georgia because their representative Phil Gingrey is launching a bid for U.S. Senate against Paul Brown in the Republican primary. Saxby Chambliss is retiring, and this is for 2014. Obviously, I support Paul Brown, who is a pretty decent congressman as they go. Much better than Phil Gingrey, for sure. Anyway, he goes on to say why Boston Tea Party ended. He said when he resigned as the chairman in July, the party basically died. And then he goes on to say that the New Hampshire Liberty Party is a secessionist party. He says it's received favorable press from outlets across New Hampshire. He said the three co-chairs of the party were candidates for, including himself, were candidates for Keene School Board in Keene, New Hampshire. And, well, all three of them lost, but, you know, that's to be expected. They're libertarians. Third-party candidates have a hard time winning anything, really, in America, and the duopoly that we have. Anyhow, you know, Darrell seems to be a really interesting guy, and, but anyhow, he goes on to say that he supported Lee Wright's in the Libertarian Party presidential nomination. He seconded his nomination to be the official nominee of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. In 2008, he cast a write-in vote for the Boston Tea Party nominee Charles J. And in 2012, he cast a write-in vote for none of the above, which is interesting. And so then I asked him about his presidential race. He was on to say that you know, that you could call him aligned with the radicals of the LP. He wants the party to be radical. He doesn't want to take incrementalist positions like the fair tax. He opposes the fair tax. He opposes the tax and regulation of cannabis, and he is also a member of Libertarians for Peace, Grassroots Libertarians, LP Sunshine Caucus, LP Anarchists, which he says is inactive, and the Rent is Too Damn High Caucus, a single-issue caucus to get the LP HQ out of the Watergate. He says, I'm not going to change my principles to reach out to the moderates or the reformers in the LP. I intend to run the most radical, principled, libertarian campaign in history. Well, good luck with that, Darrell. Further on, he says that all human life is valuable, from the unborn child to the elderly. He's strongly anti-war and pro-peace. He doesn't want to make abortion illegal because he believes education is a much more effective way of reducing the number of lives lost. I disagree. It has to be banned, in my opinion. Anyhow, he believes in privately funded education, about the option of giving them for adoption. He doesn't want a government solution to the issue. So now he goes on to give a concise summary of his platform. Here's what he says. He believes you can sum it up in two words, the word peace and liberty. So for peace, he says, I believe the United States should immediately end all wars, military campaigns around the world, militarization of local police, war on drugs, war on poverty, war on privacy, civil liberties. Liberty. Everyone has the right to do with their body and their position as they wish, as long as they do not unjustly harm another person. And further, all individuals have a God-given right to life, liberty, pursuit, and happiness. And he says, wherever governments become destructive to these three core rights, the people have the right to alter or abolish the government. Federal government has been destroying rights since 1791, so he wants the federal government abolished. And I asked him about LouRockwell.com and their slogan, anti-state, anti-war, pro-market. I asked him how he wants to build the Libertarian Party with his campaign, how he wants to outreach to activists and potential endorsements. So he says he likes the LouRockwell.com slogan, although he says he wants to say what he's for rather than what he's against. By the way, Darryl Laurie Perry announced back in 2008 that he was running for president in 2016. And I remember I was following the third parties even back in 2008, and I heard of his campaign. I'm like, what's this guy doing, announcing to run for 2016, 8 years ahead of the election? But well, now it's getting closer. He's running, and also a guy named Robbie Carr Wells is running, who's gotten the support of Gigi Bowman of LibertyCandidates.com, T-Mott, the Minister of Truth, Derek Grayson, Joshua Favre, Young Constitutionalist Chairman, working with the Clarion Call Unite Committee, which we might cover later on in the program today. Well, anyhow, he wants to promote liberty at all, points during his campaign. He said he hopes to get the support of Mary Ruhr and the Arlie Wrights, former presidential candidates. So he says, okay, so then he goes on to say that Gary Johnson is a potential candidate, though he said he sounded that he wasn't going to run. He says he likes Judge Andrew Napolitano, but he doesn't expect him to run for the LP nod because he says he'll probably support Rand Paul in the GOP, which of course he will. Then he goes on to say, several years ago I had the idea to attend a Boston Tea Party annual reenactment, and it'll be the 240th anniversary, and then to march to Washington, D.C. But he believes a campaign event will be planned at the 240th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party. He doesn't know who he'd do as a running mate. Now he comments on anarcho-capitalism and voluntarism, and I asked him whether he supports those, and then whether or not he supports the United States Pirate Party, which he has a link to them on their website. So he says he doesn't like the term anarcho-capitalism. He says it requires a definition of capitalism that most people do not use. However, he says he supports some ideas promoted by the anarcho-capitalists. He likes the idea of voluntarism, though most proclaim voluntarists refuse to engage in electoral politics. Regarding the Pirate Party, he says, quote, I do support the principles, and if they decide to nominate a presidential candidate, I intend to seek the nomination. I believe that current copyright laws are flawed and in serious need of reform. I personally release my content under Creative Commons license. The newspaper I publish is released under a copy heart that says copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. He goes on to say, I know that seeking multiple nominations may not be popular with some in the LP. However, I believe that doing so is the way to build coalitions. And end of quote. And then he goes on to list his websites, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. That really ends the interview. So I really could support DWP, Darryl W. Perry, for president in 2016. Assuming that I do join the Libertarian Party, which I'm thinking on my 18th birthday, there's a good chance I will do that. Quite frankly, because when I started running for IPR, I consider myself to be a bit of a paleo-conservative, if that makes any sense, Constitution Party supporter. That was in early January. I wrote my first article December 31st, 2012. Right now we are in April, and I'm really identifying with the Libertarian Party a lot more than the Constitution Party. So I'll probably join the Libertarian Party when I'm 18. But like I said, I'm the campaign manager for David Earl Williams III, a Republican candidate, Illinois' 9th Congressional District, and I'm supporting him as well. So both the Republican Party, advancing liberty through Republican Party where possible should be done, and Libertarian Party is really my political home, and I feel comfortable saying that. Because libertarianism, I think, it defines my political outview, my outview on life. But anyhow, so I said, that I could probably support it. And if I do go to the 2016 Libertarian Party National Convention, their 2014 convention will be in Columbus, I believe. Yeah, it'll be in Columbus, Ohio. The 2014 convention, not a presidential convention, just a national convention without the fun of it. It's just going to be business, no nominating of a president, vice president, etc. But I might go to the Columbus thing. Maybe I'll get to be a speaker. I'm going to the Libertarian Party convention in Illinois in September of this year. I'm going to be featured economists Robert Murphy and then Tom Woods, an author, famous author. First, you've heard Tom Woods and his book, The Politically Incorrect Guide to American History, among others. Okay, and then Steve Sheets, the candidate for chairman of the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania. Here's what he says. I could support Darrell W. Perry because, as county chair of the Libertarian Party, he was continually bashed for his vocal non-support of Gary Johnson's campaign. He says, quote, I agree with DWP. We cannot sacrifice our principles to get more votes. I see that as a kinship to committing fraud to achieve political goal. Okay. Well, okay, and then there's comments. Steve Sheets advised Darrell W. Perry to Pennsylvania. William Saturn, who was a Weekly News moderator, says great interview. Though he was probably the first to announce back in 2008. He did announce in 2008, yeah. William's right. Darrell's not the only candidate. Robert Mills announced his candidacy last October. Robert Mills is a joke. Nothing really to add to that. So yeah, I could probably support Darrell W. Perry. Seems like a great candidate. Maybe I could be his campaign manager for the LP presidential nomination. Well, and now I've stumbled upon an IPR article, and interesting stuff. Well, here I stumbled upon this article. I posted. Let's see. When I posted this, I posted it March 26th. Not my article. Anyway, this was published on September 22nd, 2008. Significant thing about that date is that September 22nd, 2008, Ron Paul officially endorsed Chuck Baldwin, the Constitution Party candidate for the presidency. And, the interesting about that is that when Ron Paul initially said, I'm going to lend my support to 4 candidates. Green Party's Cynthia McKinney, former Congresswoman, Ralph Nader, Independent candidate, Chuck Baldwin, Constitution Party, and Bob Barr, Libertarian Party. September 10th, he had a press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. He had his, campaign manager, Jesse Benton, with him. And what he wanted to do, kind of a unity for all third-party candidates. The 4 that he invited. Bob Barr didn't show up, snubbed him, and then offered the vice presidential post to him instead of waiting en route. That was kind of an insulting thing to do. Then he criticized Ron Paul. And then one of his Bob Barr staffers told Ron Paul to F off. So this whole controversy was dubbed Snubgate by IPR, Independent Political Report. They have a ton of articles if you're interested. And so Ron Paul was disappointed that Bob Barr endorsed Chuck Baldwin. And Chuck Baldwin endorsed Ron Paul in 2008, 2012. And Chuck Baldwin has called Ron Paul the greatest U.S. congressman in American history. And, in 2008, had I been able to vote, I'll be able to vote next year. But in 2008, I would have voted for Chuck Baldwin hands down as by far the best presidential candidate the Constitution Party has ever had. Or maybe will ever have. We'll see. But here is an article Andrew Davis published on September 22nd, 2008 on the Libertarian Party website, on their blog. And I'll kind of summarize the key points of this article for you guys. He said that at LP headquarters, people are asking about the differences between the Libertarian Party and the Constitution Party. He said the confusion is understandable, especially for party outsiders who are beginning to look at either as a new political home. He said on the surface, the LP and CP appear to be quite similar. The very name of the Constitution Party appeals to the Libertarian voter, looking for a party that wants to rein in government to the confines of the U.S. Constitution. He said the LP and CP are close on issues like foreign policy, Second Amendment rights, economic policy, healthcare. But he says, however, beyond the initial similarities between the Constitution Party and the Libertarian Party, there are some differences, and he calls them profound differences. What he says is that okay, so I'm sorry, a little distracted here. Facebook is open. I'm doing some communication here. Okay, so what he writes is that the preambles of the Constitution Party and the Libertarian Party are different. And, you know, why I found this article interesting, because when I joined IPR, I was in the camp of the Constitution Party. Now I identify as a Libertarian. My views kind of, not all of them evolved, but some of them did evolve in a more libertarian direction. And I just found the Libertarian Party much more appealing than the Constitution Party, as much as I'd like it. And, you know, I am in contact, or, you know, I know the vice chairman of the Constitution Party, Randy Stufflebean. He lives in southern Illinois. I am in northern Illinois. But let me just read to you the preamble of the Constitution Party. The Constitution Party gratefully acknowledges the blessing of our okay, I'm sorry. So, okay, I'm sorry. I'm kind of, okay, anyhow. Yeah, I couldn't go to see Gary Johnson today. I was disappointed. He gave a speech down at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. But, anyhow, okay, back to this article. When you're trying to do a radio show and also talk to people on Facebook, okay, folks, bear with me as I am trying to do several things at once right now. Okay. Okay, anyhow, let me just read you the preamble of the Constitution Party. The Constitution Party gratefully acknowledges the blessing of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ as Creator, Preserver, and Ruler of the universe and of these United States, and we hereby appeal to Him for mercy, aid, comfort, guidance, and the protection of His providence as we work to restore and preserve these United States. This great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians, not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. For this very reason, peoples of other faiths have been and are afforded asylum, prosperity, prosperity, and a freedom of worship here. The goal of the Constitution Party is to restore American jurisprudence to its biblical foundations, to limit the federal government to its constitutional boundaries. I'll read to you the Libertarian Party preamble as soon as I do one quick thing. Okay. 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 Well, folks, I'm sorry, but when your congressional candidate that you're running a campaign of messages you on Facebook, you gotta take care of that as well. So, unfortunately, they still doing the radio show, but that's all right. Okay, so let me read to you the Libertarian Party preamble. As libertarians, we seek a world of liberty, a world in which all individuals are sovereign over their own lives, and no one is forced to sacrifice his or her values for the benefit of others. We believe that respect for individual rights is the essential precondition for a free and prosperous world, that force and fraud must be banished from human relationships, and that only through freedom can peace and prosperity be realized. Consequently, we defend each person's right to engage in any activity that is peaceful and honest, and welcome the diversity that freedom brings. The world we seek to build is one where individuals are free to follow their own dreams in their own ways without interference from government or any authoritarian power. Well, okay. Okay, sorry folks, I'm getting a little bit distracted here. Okay, well, I finished up with the LP preamble. I find the Libertarian Party preamble more appealing. Funny thing is, 4 months ago I would have found the Constitution Party preamble to be more appealing, but I just find libertarianism to be such an attractive and such a reasonable political ideology that it's almost a no-brainer. And I don't. Unlike Rand Paul, who called the libertarian label an albatross around his neck, I don't view it that way. I view the label libertarian as a good thing, as something that I'm not going to shy away from. Anyhow, Facebook. What a time waster. Excuse me. So from the get-go, here's Andrew Davis writing. He says, differences of the parties are obvious. He says, at its very roots, the Constitution Party is unabashedly a party of Christian philosophy and spirituality, whereas the Libertarian Party remains more secular in its composition and values. Well, okay. By the way, DAW for Congress 2014.com. Might get to that later in the show, not much time left. Okay. Anyhow, like I said, okay. Folks, being bombarded by my boss here. The candidate is running for Congress, David Earl Williams III. So he says that the Constitution Party wants to restore American jurisprudence to the biblical foundation. And Libertarian Party individuals are free to follow their dreams in their own ways without interference from government or any authoritarian power, end quote. He said the Constitution Party has a very real and intense dedication to constitutional provisions. They, mention Christian nation and somehow maintain religious tolerance. But the Constitution Party, so he takes, for example, their view on gambling. Quote, from the Constitution Party platform, quote, gambling promotes an increase in crime, destruction of family values, and decline of them in the moral fiber of our country, which you could argue that's true. It doesn't mean gambling should be banned. Virgil Goode, the 2012 presidential nominee of the Constitution Party, in Congress, he had even proposed something called the Internet Gambling Ban, to ban Internet gambling. Which, I'm not advocating Internet gambling, but I think individuals should be free to do so, because they're not harming, as long as, the non-aggression principle states, as long as you are not harming anyone else, you're free to do whatever you want. So victimless crimes aren't, in fact, crimes. So crimes against internet, and okay, so now I got sent Mitt Romney Gangnam Style parody. Okay, Mitt Romney Gangnam Style. Jesus, trying to do a radio show. Stop annoying me. Let's go back to the Constitution Party versus the Libertarian Party. So, to their credit, the CP does not say government should outlaw this behavior, but their rhetoric suggests they'd like to get rid of gambling. So they want to eliminate lotteries, and they want to stop subsidizing Indian casinos as a sort of, way of economic development or stimulation. Issues like pornography, they call it the distortion of nature of sex created by God. We call on our local, federal, state governments to uphold the cherished First Amendment right to free speech by vigorously enforcing our laws against obscenity to make a degree of separation between that which is truly speech and which only seeks to distort and destroy, and the judiciary. We particularly support all legislation which would remove from federal appellate review jurisdiction matters involving acknowledgement of God as the sovereign source of law. Liberty or government diverge quite distinctly from LP philosophy. The biggest difference between the two parties, Andrew Davis writes, is the issue of gay rights. The Constitution Party, we mentioned that they want to, quote, restore American jurisprudence to its biblical foundation, end of quote. It takes a different approach to homosexuality than does the Libertarian Party. Platform of the Constitution Party states, the law, quote, the law of our Creator defines marriage as the union of one man and one woman, and no government may legitimately authorize or define marriage or family relations contrary to what God has instituted. He mentioned they, of course, do not support civil unions for gays either. So, Andrew Davis writes in this article, while libertarians hold many different views on the issue of gay marriage, with some believing, I'm reading off Andrew Davis here, that both straight and gay should not be an issue for government, and others believing that gay marriage should be recognized so long as straight marriage is recognized. Libertarians believe government does not have, pardon me again. Libertarians believe that, quote, the government does not have the authority to define, license, or restrict personal relationships. One might remember the saying, okay, well, this is interesting. Okay, so here's what Andrew Davis writes further down this article. Quote, one might remember the saying in grade school geometry that, quote, all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. Or the same can be said of libertarians and Constitution Party members. Many Constitution Party members are libertarians in some way, shape, or form. However, there are very few libertarians, if any at all, that would comfortably identify themselves as ascribing to the Constitution Party platform. There is a simple explanation for this. Christian members of the Libertarian Party recognize that the basis of their religion is the idea of free will and volition, and that morality doesn't need to be reinforced by either government laws or coercion of any kind. Constitution Party, for whatever reasons, finds that government should be a model for morality, that is Christian morality. So, and this then goes on, all lifestyles contrary to this behavioral model should be eliminated through constitutional government methods. The end goal of establishing a Christian nation. Might be some truth to that. Perhaps the Constitution Party, he says they might even support a quasi-theocracy, which I don't believe. But, so, the fallacy of most Christians in politics, and one of the poisons of the Constitution Party's platform. So for a party that believes so strongly in the Constitution and preserving its authority, it's puzzling when the Constitution Party takes the position that God's law is supreme to constitutional authority in the government. And many Christians, including myself, do believe that God's law is supreme to the law of man when the two conflict. However, the difference is that this belief is made at personal level and will not expect the same to apply to government. So, okay, going on to say Constitutional Party fails to answer about religious freedom and people's right to be free from the government. Okay, so he says that okay. Goes on to say the Libertarian Party wants a world where individuals are free to live their lives in peace without interference from the government or their fellow man. This entails a tolerance of many other lifestyles, though not approval or acceptance. A key distinction, because it will be recognized that nobody should dictate anything else through law but freedom. Should society turn into a Christian society through this freedom, then so be it. It will at least be done through the volition and consent of others. There will be no element of co-leadership. Then there's 462 comments on this article. But anyhow, so, you know, that was basically, here's what that was. I apparently have one fan of who says, "I love your commentary on IPR. Keep up the great work for liberty." Well, I'm gonna like that status. All right, cool. Huh. Interesting stuff. For sure. All right. Joshua Favre is running. Okay, Gary Johnson was at U of I. Couldn't see him. Okay. Okay, there's a picture of Gary Johnson. Cool stuff. All right, folks. Well, with the time I have left, let me give you a rundown of where David Williams III stands on the issues. He believes in abolishing the income tax, and he wants to abolish the IRS. Awesome. And he wants a national sales tax advocated by the fair tax. Now, I'm not really that big on the fair tax, but much better for sure than would it be than what it is today. But all right, well, education, that wants to, abolish the Department of Education, which most all Ron Paul supporters do pretty much. Healthcare, wants to abolish Obamacare, and he is pro-life. He wants the abortion issue to decide on a state level. And he supports the morning after pill or a shot of estrogen. Congrats to our press secretary for writing the stuff. Immigration, where does it stand? So Mr. David Williams is against legal immigration. He believes in the work visa program. So about birthright citizenship, David says that minors under 18 who reside in America illegally along with their families should be deported. but be able to come back to the U.S. once they become adult. All right, immigration for you. Foreign policy. Obviously a non-interventionist. Opposes all foreign aid. Supports free trade, welfare, liberties. Supports marriage equality. Big article here. Wants to abolish TSA. All good stuff. All solid stuff. Okay, folks. Alrighty. Well, we're coming up on the end of the broadcast, but with the time that I do have, let me just, well, first of all, express my gratitude to Liberty Movement Radio for all they've done for me. And, you know, it's been a truly awesome experience. They're undergoing some changes to the website. And, you know, I'm certainly pumped up for those changes because it is a truly great website. And they're a truly great radio network, and I enjoy being part of this. You know, and folks, I got to give out another shout out to Chris Dillard of the Chris Dillard Show for what he did for me. He found my Facebook page, the Lesiak Report, and he offered me a show, LibertyMovementRadio.com. And since that day, I've had a show. So, folks, this is really awesome stuff. Really awesome stuff. North Korea approves nuclear strike on the United States. We're surfing through Infowars.com. Islamic cleric issues fatwa permitting rape of Syrian women. NATO-backed rebels enjoy quote-unquote sexual jihad. Well, obviously they're supporting this. Kim Kardashian naming new baby after the Illuminati. What is this video?
Oh, Kim Kardashian.
Okay, well, naming the baby Christ with K-H-R-I-S. I don't really care, folks, what the Kardashians are up to. Popular culture is degenerate, and honestly, it's uninteresting, and honestly, it's pointless to follow. Well, folks, all right, folks. All right, what else? What else is going on in the world? Large number of Americans believe in quote-unquote conspiracy theories. Poll, almost 1/3 of Americans believe in New World Order. Oh, cool stuff, folks. Cool stuff. Like I said, I'm a big Alex Jones fan right here. Okay, David Stockman says Bernanke is the most dangerous man in U.S. history. And you know what's interesting, folks? You can check out a cool website. It's called Deep Thoughts by Ben Bernanke, and they kind of just satirize him and they make fun of him. It's really cool stuff, folks. Also, there's a website. It's not a website. This is a Facebook page. Also, a Facebook page called Deep Thoughts by Barack Obama. And okay, so we're here on the Onion. What's going on in the Onion? Well, you can always check out the Onion for fun stuff. Well, anyhow, another thing, folks, you might want to check out is Congressman Justin Amash was recently interviewed by Reason TV, Nick Gillespie, and talks about the debt, abortion, immigration. And I'd recommend this 38-minute interview. You could find it on YouTube, or you could just go to Reason TV, youtube.com/Reason TV, and you can watch his interview. You know, Justin Amash, I'd say, is a hero to the Liberty Movement. He could be called the new Ron Paul. I have nothing against calling him the new Ron Paul. And, you know, he's considering running for U.S. Senate in Michigan in 2014. If he does so, that'd be awesome. I don't know if he could win. It'd be a challenge. Michigan's a blue state. The Senator Carl Levin, an incumbent Democrat, is retiring. He's served for a really long time. You know, it'd be awesome if Amash got elected to the Senate. I'm not sure if Michigan will elect him. I'm not sure that our elections are that open. All right, whatever. Well, folks, I'm going to sign off on this March 31st edition of the Lesiak Report. Until next time, God bless you all, and have a good rest of your week, folks.